caught my wife red-handed cheating on me in the car at a parking lot. My wife is 48 years old, and I am 57. We've been together for 14 years. I've been lurking on this topic on and off for a while, and I never expected this to happen to me. I've noticed that my wife has grown distant in recent years, ever when she was promoted and began earning more money. However, since the COVID shutdown, we, like everyone else, have been obliged to stay at home in quarantine. Sometime in April, I noticed a dramatic shift in my wife, as if a switch had been flipped. She said she couldn't deal with the lockdown and felt absolutely confined. I believe it also compelled us to examine our marriage and its difficulties more closely. We were highly compatible at the start of our marriage, having similar interests and agreeing on the majority of issues. Our marriage has always had issues, but they were simple to ignore with the distraction of our job. Due to the complications, I had to shut down on occasion. We finally slept in different beds, but we still had sex on occasion, and she is still a terrific mother to our 3 children under the age of 13. I know we're not alone in dealing with the rigors of working and raising a family, as well as the stressors that go along with it. We used to quarrel about our issues before COVID occurred. It was almost as if she was more annoyed than normal, and she would make everything a huge argument. She proposed marital therapy, and I consented because I wanted things to return to normal. Like when we were married, and I was determined to go to any length to make it right. Because we were still on lockdown, it was difficult to locate a marital counselor, so I asked her if we could talk things out while we looked for one. She would erupt in a frenzy and rave about how awful of a husband I am, detailing every aspect of how bad I was during our marriage. I told her I loved her, admitted my role in making her feel ignored, and expressed my desire to work on making things better. She says that I don't care about her and that she needs space and therapy to figure things out. I was honest with her and asked whether she still wanted to continue in this marriage. She assured me that she does not want divorce or a separation, and rather to work things out with a counselor. I couldn't stand it any longer by June. I had no idea why these severe events were occurring. Inside, I was ripped apart by thoughts of my marriage and family crumbling. My children, despite their early age, are acutely aware of our troubles, and I can see how they are sad as a result. I felt compelled to follow my instincts that there was something more going on, so I conducted my own investigation. My intuition tells me that there was something more serious going on than our already shattered marriage. I've seen that she never leaves the room without her phone. While we're watching TV, she always appears to be on her phone, and she places her phone so that I can't see her screen. She likewise sits immobilized on the sofa, not paying attention to me or the TV, impatiently awaiting the next text. The phone never leaves her hand, and she communicates with someone at all hours of the day and night, and she leaves the home to go on a vehicle trip, claiming she is bored. I've been on this site long enough to know she's cheating, but I'm only noticing things now because we're stuck in the house. It's shown me how blind I've been. I know something's wrong, but I want to be sure, so I ordered a voice-activated recorder on Amazon. It was shipped overnight, and since I know where she keeps her spare key to her car, I installed the voice-activated recorder in her car the next night while she sleeps. 2 days later, I retrieved the voice-activated recorder from my wife's car and listened to it. I could only hear my wife speaking. She wasn't with anyone, but she was definitely talking on the phone with a guy. She was discussing work and also how she misses him, and how bored I am, and how she can't wait to be with the other man. According to what I heard, they planned to meet at a hotel parking lot closer to my house. When she arrived I was ready to blow a gasket after hearing this. Words cannot express how enraged I was. At first, I wanted to approach her. I felt deceived and embarrassed. I knew my marriage was ended at that point, but I needed more proof to clear my mind. I have proof that she is having an emotional affair, and I can tell from the chat that they are already having a physical affair. I can tell from the talk that it's someone from work, but I don't know who. I haven't met anybody she works with. She used to invite me to her work family gatherings, but once she earned a promotion 2 years ago, she stopped, and I never inquired why. I intend to catch her in the act if possible, but she did not leave the home for another late-night automobile journey for the following 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm living in a home with someone who plainly has no regard for our marriage. I had to sit silently and seem normal despite the fact that I knew the lady I've loved for 15 years is cheating on me. You may wonder why I don't confront her. I've learned all I need to know. But I know my wife. She is the type to deny, and it would develop into a massive argument. Since I don't have any clear evidence of physical affair, I would miss the chance for closure, and she will find a way to turn it around on me. She is extremely intelligent. I need proof before engaging in a conflict. In addition to the voice-activated recorder, I put a GPS tracker in her vehicle, which comes with a phone app that records her car's whereabouts. With this GPS, I can follow where her car is at all times through my phone. 2 weeks later, I guess it was about mid-June, COVID restrictions in my region were lessening, and my wife and I began returning to work. We had supper after we both got home from work. We were watching TV with kids. She was texting as normal, and she stated she was going for a late-night ride to clear her thoughts. I felt a mixture of fury and relief when she said that. I had been anticipating this moment for the previous 2 weeks. I felt relieved since catching her red-handed had been on my mind for the past 2 weeks. I couldn't think about anything else, and I couldn't even focus at work. I wasn't wondering how things had gone so wrong in my marriage, or whether there was anything I could have done differently to keep her from straying. Was it because she's earning more money now? I know from the tales I've read on this site that I should never blame myself for her straying, but I couldn't help myself. So as soon as I heard her vehicle leave the driveway, I switched off the television and put the kids to bed, grabbed my phone, opened the app, and noticed her car was in the same parking lot as mine. I'm guessing they reserved a hotel room, so I decided to set up camp in the hotel lobby and wait for them to emerge. How dumb could she be to choose her cheating spot so near to her home? Is this carelessness, or have I been so deafeningly now that I think about it? Who the heck goes for a midnight ride to clear their head? She must think I'm such a, or maybe she took advantage of the fact that we're going through a hard patch in our marriage and needed some distance. It had been approximately 20 minutes after she had gone, so I got into my vehicle and went to the hotel, knowing her position from the GPS. When I arrived, there were only 5 cars in the parking lot. It is not ordinarily a crowded hotel, but it seems to be abnormally quiet. I saw that there was no light in the lobby, which led me to believe that the hotel was still closed due to COVID. I parked away from other vehicles and saw my wife's car was parked in an isolated part of the parking lot. There was also an SUV parked close to her. My pulse began racing when I realized they might be in either or his vehicle. My wife drives a sedan. I wasn't sure whether they spotted me since the way they were parked allowed them to observe any vehicle coming in from the freeway. They were in an isolated part of the parking lot, which was dark and quiet. I turned off my car and looked in their way to check whether they were still in the vehicle. Because the motel is closed, they must be in his or her automobile. The more I gaze, the clearer it becomes that they are not in the vehicle, since the driver and passenger sides are both vacant. It's been over 40 minutes since she left the house, and I know she'll be back home soon since she knows I'll be anxious about her being out this late for so long. My first impression was, how could she leave the home and children for some cheap sex in a hotel parking lot with a stranger, assuming the guy is her employee? I'm not married to the same lady I was 15 years ago. I couldn't just drive to the private location where they were parked, which was only about 30 yards away. So I made the steadfast choice to get out of my automobile and approach their car in such a manner that they wouldn't see me coming. The closer I got to their cars, the more I noticed a more rhythmic movement of the SUV. At this moment, all the emotion I had been holding back for the past week just got to me at once. I lost it and I ran toward the car. They were at the back of the SUV. The window glass is tinted so I couldn't see anything, but I knew they were there. I tried to open the door, but it was locked. I taped on the screen, attempting to shatter it, and instantly spotted both of their shadows as they jumped, as if they were having sex in the back seat. I watched a guy I didn't recognize go into the driver's seat and drive away before I could break the glass. She was in the back seat with the tinted window, so I couldn't see her well, but they were definitely having sex in the back seat. I can't believe my 15-year-old wife is being dodged like in a cheap hotel parking lot by a stranger. He drove out of the parking lot as soon as he could, and I felt like I had failed in my quest to catch them with their trousers down. I wanted to catch them nude, but at least she couldn't deny it. I caught her off guard. She is now aware that she is I walked back to my vehicle and drove home with a troubled heart. That night, I couldn't sleep. She didn't return until 5 a.m., and I was waiting for her in the living room, which I didn't want to do since my kids were home, and their school was closed due to COVID. I observed she looked fatigued as soon as she walked in the door. Her body language stinks of guilt and shame, humiliation that she was caught dodging a stranger in a hotel parking lot, embarrassment that she couldn't look me in the eyes. I informed her I knew she was meeting with him on multiple times, and her first comments were, "I can explain everything. It's not what it seems like." She claimed to have known the man for approximately 6 months, but she refused to tell me who he was or that she worked with him. She said that they both experienced marital troubles and were lonely, so they were delighted to assist one another. She said they only had sex once when I caught them, and she went defensive, claiming we were having marital troubles and she was stressed. She said that she did not want to separate, that she wanted to continue working on us, but that she needed to be alone just now. She was irritated that I had listened in on her chat and followed her. She also said that she would not stop seeing this guy and believes that his support is appropriate considering how awful our marriage has been. I know that most people would read this and immediately conclude that there is no chance for our marriage, and that it is not my fault. I do believe it is my fault that the marriage has deteriorated to the point where there is an affair. The notion of severing my family and irreversibly harming my children is tearing me apart. I'm hoping for some impartial input. Thank you very much. I agree with the advice and intend to follow it. I need to take a few days to gather my thoughts before plunging into this. She only acknowledged to the parking lot sex and insists that it was the only time, which I know is a lie. My evidence of phone conversation demonstrates that it has been going on for a longer period, and they have had sex several times. I also reside in a no-fault divorce state, so I'll need to acquire competent legal guidance beforehand to avoid being wiped out in the divorce. I absolutely need to safeguard the assets I have before my marriage. I'd want to inform the other man's wife of everything, but I'm not sure how to reach her. To gain contact information, I'd need his information first. I appreciate all of the input, and I agree with everyone else who has spoken out. I want to scold my wife about what a terrible person she is. I want to inform the paramour's wife about the affair and blow apart his family in the same way that it is happening to mine. I want to file for divorce as soon as possible, but, as others have noted, I also want to protect myself. To do this, I must strengthen myself as recommended in the 180. I can't escalate things right away since it would allow for a costly and drawn-out divorce. I'm trying to maintain a cool mind so that I don't get wiped out in divorce and end up with a terrible custody arrangement. I've got much too much to lose. I recognize now that this was not my fault and that my wayward spouse would have done it regardless. I suppose I didn't know her as well as I thought I did after 15 years. She is a loser, a liar, and too weak to seek therapy before leaving the marriage for a short cure. I think karma will eventually catch up with her. Has anybody attempted this calmer, non-escalating method, and if so, how well did it work? I'm not looking for a reconciliation. I'm referring to proceeding with my divorce in a calm, orderly, and patient way in the best interests of myself and my children. Some may find it weak, but I want to understand why the affair occurred, obtain closure, and move on. I don't believe blowing up the affair, pursuing the other guy and his wife, or shredding my wife would help me get over this. It could provide me momentary gratification, but it won't benefit me in the long term. I will have to forgive my wife at some time, or the anger will consume me for the rest of my life. I'd call numerous attorneys and learn from them what my best course of action is to protect myself and my possessions. I also see a therapist once a week to help me figure things out in my thoughts. My attitude to all of this is just for the benefit of myself and my children. I acknowledge that all of the information on this site is based on true-life instances of betrayal. Believe me, I am furious and saddened as a result of this incident. I know that others on this site are wounded and outraged as a result of similar events. Some people, in my opinion, will carry their anger and pain with them for the rest of their lives, and maybe for good cause. I don't think it'll ever entirely leave me. I do, however, wish to recover from this in the greatest manner possible. Some may find it weak, but I want to understand why the affair occurred, obtain closure, and move on. I don't believe blowing up the affair, pursuing the other guy and his wife, or shredding my wife would help me get over this. It could provide me momentary gratification, but it won't benefit me in the long term. I will have to forgive my wife at some time, or the anger will consume me for the rest of my life. I'd call numerous attorneys and learn from them what my best course of action will be to protect myself and my possessions. I also see a therapist once a week to help me figure things out in my thoughts. My attitude to all of this is just for the benefit of myself and my children.